A quick turnaround. I changed my clothes. No, I have these big testing supplies from my school in Lansing, or my school's office, since my school.
Our first candidate, whoops, sorry. Our first candidate this evening is Amy G.
Hello, how are you? Can I approach this?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Approach the bench, yes. Hi, I'm Amy. I brought you guys your own little individual things. Nice to meet you. I know you got to review these, but I wanted you to have hard copies in addition.
Hello there.
How you doing? Hi, nice to meet you. Of course.
Please meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hi, nice to meet you.
All right. Good evening. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to welcome Amy G to our district. I would also like to thank the stakeholders who have joined us for this important work. And I'll take just a moment to describe our format tonight. We'll start off by introducing our board members. I'll let you each introduce yourself. We'll start with Johnny Schreier,
Corey McLaughlin.
Shane Foster, Dan Stump,
Ignacio Maduro Jr.
Ron Becker.
Nice to meet you.
The initial interview should take about an hour. We will have 15 questions that we will ask each candidate. Board members may ask follow-up questions if they do need clarification. After we have finished with our questions, we will give our candidate the opportunity to ask the Board of Education questions. We will welcome any closing statements the candidate would like to offer. Peter Haynes from the Michigan Leadership Institute will help us keep on schedule. Audience members may be most helpful in submitting questions on the forms located next to the doorway entrance. The board will consider these suggestions specific to each candidate. If the form is signed, the questions are not duplicates or illegal, and as time permits during a second round interview. The task of choosing our next superintendent is the responsibility of the Board of Education and representatives of the community. We appreciate the perspectives of our staff and our community in this process. While we're not seeking recommendations as which individual should be hired, we are seeking your input in terms of identifying and verifying evidence of skills and attributes about each of the candidates. Please keep in mind the factors we may not legally use as a basis for our hiring decisions. They are printed on the bottom of the form. Mr. Haynes will collect these forms at the end of each interview. Well, we're ready. We can begin. Are you ready?
Yes.
Everyone ready? I'll start it off. So as an opener, while the board has had the opportunity to review your resume, our audience has not. Would you please briefly review your professional background and experience in public education and in other relevant work?
Absolutely. Before I do that, I just want to thank the board again for providing the opportunity for allowing me to come in this evening to interview with potential of becoming your next superintendent. I really appreciate the opportunity. Also want to thank everybody for coming this evening. It's going to be a long evening from my understanding, so thank you for coming and support. It just goes to show the support the district does have. So I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning. I was born and raised in Riverview, Michigan. Graduated from Riverview. Reason why I wanted to share that is because I was a member of the Huron League. So here, that Jefferson was one of my biggest competitors growing up as a sports player myself. From Riverview, I was granted the opportunity to get a full scholarship to Wayne State University for softball. So I went from Riverview straight to Wayne State and knew immediately that I wanted to work with children. Education has always been my passion, and what I do daily is on behalf of kids first. At Wayne State, I earned my bachelor's degree in K-12, cognitive impairment, as well as K-8, all subjects. From there, I went on and got my first job teaching in Lincoln Park School District as an SXI teacher, children that are severely multiply impaired, wheelchair bound, very, very special needs, medically fragile kiddos. From there, I knew I wanted to be a leader after teaching for X amount of years. So I went back to school in 2004. Very quickly after getting my bachelor's, I went back to Wayne State and got my master's degree in a 2-year program that was accelerated, and have my master's degree in educational leadership. From Lincoln Park, I went on and taught after Lincoln Park, I went to Ann Arbor. I was a special education teacher for the Washtenaw Intermediate School District. And then from Ann Arbor, I was unfortunately laid off there and due to budget cuts, and went over to Plymouth Canton. I was a teacher in Plymouth Canton for several years. I wanted to make sure before becoming a principal that I taught at all levels. It was important to me, it's important to me now as a current principal, to make sure that I'm able to say, and now hopefully becoming a superintendent, that I can look at teachers and say, I was an elementary teacher, I was a middle school teacher, and I was a high school teacher, all levels. So from Plymouth Canton, that is where I ended my teaching career at Salem High School in Plymouth Canton. And I went on to be a principal in Detroit. Part of the work that I was doing while employed through Plymouth Canton was on the district equity leadership team. So I did a lot of work on closing the academic achievement gap and what did that look like at Plymouth Canton from a large macro level, right? So I was dealing with a lot interactions with the board office and figuring out ways to help close that gap. I knew I wanted to be a principal from there, and I wanted to expose myself to the highest needs place I possibly could to get myself prepared for administration. So I found myself at Trix. It's on the east side of Detroit. Makes up 60% of Michigan's prison. So I spent there for 3 years in Detroit. From Detroit, I went on to Savage Elementary in Van Buren. I was there for 1 year. That building was very different. That district was going through a lot at that time. That building had 40% gifted and talented students, so it was a complete different transition from what I was doing in Detroit to going over, but it's helped make me into who I am today because I've had the opportunity to serve children from all different capacities. And then from there, from Savage, landed me in Wayne Westland. I was asked to come over to Wayne Westland to help flip the school like I did at Trix in Detroit. It was going to close. I had 1 calendar year with the staff that I had, just like at Trix. In Detroit, it was a priority school and lowest performing 5% of the state. And I'm proud to say that in both of those capacities, both at Trix and at Hicks, we did turn the school around in 1 calendar year. So here we are now. And then the last part of the question is, interested in this position at this point in your career is because I am ready for more. So this is my 11th year as an administrator. I've had many conversations with my current superintendent, past superintendents, past colleagues of mine. I'm just ready to do more. So part of the reason I was doing more is I take on a lot of interns. I'm proud to say I've had 11 interns. All of them except my current intern are all current administrators. So I'm very passionate about leading others to go into leadership. So I've had wonderful success with that. Being in the building, you impact a lot, right? You can make it as big as that you want as a principal, but being a superintendent, you're able to be visible and you impact so much more in that capacity, and that's what I'm ready to do.
Thank you.
Yes.
How do you think various stakeholders, parents, community, staff, and even students should be involved in setting the direction for our schools?
So I pride myself on shared leadership. Shared leadership is something that is critical, and it's something that I feel that Jefferson needs. Being a community member myself, I have noticed and seen and done my homework on this district for over a year. Seeing the things that the district has gone through, and I feel the leadership is where the most important impact has to come from. It's my professional opinion that leadership from superintendent, that's only one person, and so Jefferson is full of so many amazing people and so many amazing programs, and I feel like they just need some more direction, and I want to be a part of that. But you have to do that by listening first. There are so many people in this district that have unbelievable ideas that have not been put into place yet, for a number of different reasons. I obviously, I'm not here, I'm not in the intricacies of what's going on in different meetings and such, but listening first and being present and hearing what parents and students, especially students, have to say, and of course the staff, because they live it every day. So shared leadership is huge.
Could you please tell us how you will establish yourself as a committed presence in our district?
Yes, so visibility is the number one thing, and it sounds so cliche, right? So a superintendent is supposed to be present in the schools, walking the hallways, getting to know the students and the staff, and that's how you build the trust, right? In addition to that, not just from the capacity of being within the district buildings, but also going into the community, being present for community events. I was just at church on Sunday and people were coming up to me, Amy, you have an interview. Amy, you're interviewing with Jefferson. Being a known positive person in the community and being present at sport events, dances, community things. And then in addition to that, bringing in more things for the community to attend here in the district. We are so capable of doing more. We have the luxury of the rec center here. There's so many different things that we could do and that we are doing, but I feel like there's so much more that could be done.
Mr. Fryer.
We understand other districts, including some you may have served, operate with a large team of leaders who focus on specific roles. Given our size, what roles do you expect to play in a variety of critical district functions?
I love that question. So coming from a district in Wayne Westland, we are roughly around 10,000 students right now. We have 10 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 2 high schools, and plus our career tech program, so 3 essentially. So coming to districts such as Jefferson, I feel that's a huge advantage for myself of coming from such like a macro level district to more of a micro, smaller. Just because the capacity, there's not like a large cabinet, for example, here in the board office. But like I said previously, there are so many leaders already embedded in this district that we can bring to teams and make different teams for the different areas of support that are needed across the district. So transportation, what's going on with busing and transportation? There needs to be a team there so we can meet, get it on the calendar, let's go every couple of weeks, whatever is needed to be present. If it's special education, what does that look like? What does the partnership with the Monroe ISD look like right now? What do we need to do to make it better and fix it and work more? That encompasses a team to go over all of the different things that are needed. Interventions, I read in your mitigating your learning process that there is a learning, obviously breakdown, just like all districts right now, right? Public education is struggling with that since COVID. But what are those interventions? And the only people that are gonna know is specifically what they're given and what they can do to increase student achievement are the people that are in the front lines, which are the teachers. The teachers absolutely know what is necessary for their small group instruction and what they need to meet the needs of their students every single day. It cannot just come from this level telling the staff what's going to happen. We have to meet the kids where they're at because data doesn't lie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. McGuire.
What do you see as the biggest challenges in serving children with special needs, and how should those challenges be addressed?
So as I shared in question 1, my entire background, besides obviously being in principal world right now, is working with special needs children. My advocacy for children with special needs is second to none. With that, the advocacy comes with the support of the buildings, because oftentimes children with disabilities come with more struggles. They might impact the general education population more because they might have a behavior outburst, for example, in a hallway, or during inclusion time in a classroom, they might interrupt the teacher and the 25 other students in the classroom. So the support has to not just be focused on the child with a disability, it has to be looked at from the entire basis of everybody involved. That's where that partnership with the Monroe ISD has to come from. We have to have that support. We need to have people coming into the district from the Monroe ISD, observing the children that we currently have placed in our special education programs, looking at what is happening, and then putting the plans together. FBAs, BIPs, what does our IEP look like? What service hours are we looking at? And then the behavior plans, they have to make sure that the students are successful. One of the things I love is that the board office administration building is connected to the high school. So one of the things when I was networking with some of your staff, first question I asked was, well, does everybody at the administration office have a walkie? And this person said, a walkie? What are you talking about? I'm like, well, like the crisis team, when there's a behavior or something happens, or if a student is eloping, how do I get notified if I'm your superintendent? And they're like, what? I'm like, you better believe it. I'm coming down that hallway and going to support. That's my whole background. So if we don't know, if we can't address things as a team, then there's no way that the students can win and the teachers can be supported. It has to be a team effort.
How would you help us build a more productive, trusting, effective, and communicative relations with our intermediate school district?
I just kind of talked a little bit about that, obviously, but just to expand, so just based on some of the research that I've done on my own, and it's different. So coming from a district right now, for example, Wayne Westland in my current position, we have a director of special education, and we have we have an executive director, excuse me, and then we have directors of special education. So there's a number of different special education admin that come in to support myself as a principal. So for example, because of my passion for children with special needs, I asked our district they used to have our self-contained students, we have a K2 classroom for kiddos with cognitive impairments, and we have a 3-5 classroom for children with cognitive impairments. And then we also have our K2 classroom for children with emotional impairments, which come with severe behaviors, as well as a 3-5 EI classroom. The reason why I'm sharing that is because I advocated for our kiddos because before they used to be spread across the district. So one elementary in Wayne Westland would have the 3-5 program. I would have the K2, let's say. So the children with special needs already have life difficult enough, most of them. And the fact that at second grade, they had to say goodbye to their school family and go and have to meet another school family and start all over again when their typical general education peers did not have to do that, frustrated me. So I went and advocated and made sure that we had that same capacity in my building. So I asked for both classrooms for children with cognitive impairments to be housed at Hicks, as well as both classrooms with children with emotional impairments to be housed at Hicks, so I could support further, as my background is obviously special education. So we do that now, and it's fantastic. So the ISD, we need to make sure at Jefferson that they are here. Oftentimes we get ourselves inundated with meetings at the admin level where everything's a meeting. Everything is a meeting, and then when you're a teacher, you're not a part of that meeting. And it's so frustrating because the teacher is the person living it day to day, and the paraprofessionals and all the support staff, speech therapists and OTs and everybody. We need the ISD to come and partner with the district on the other side as well. We need them to come into our schools and see it firsthand of what the struggles are, so we can work together to support not just the student, but the staff as well. And that partnership is going to be absolutely successful with my leadership, I promise.
We all understand hindsight is 20/20. Can you share an example where you made a leadership decision you would do differently today?
Sure. So when I was asked, both at Trix and Hicks, I'll back up to Trix in Detroit. That school, that was back when Skype was happening. It was before Zoom. So, or Google Meet. So on Skype, I had a meeting with the state, and they said, Amy, you have 1 year to flip the school. It's going to close. You have 1 calendar year. You have to do whatever you have to do to get the kids to come to school. You have your truancy issues, you have your behavior issues, all of the above. And I was a first-year principal, brand new. So at that time, I did what I thought was best. Years ago, this was in 2014, I think. And I started talking about, this is what we're doing to the staff. This is what we have to do. The building's gonna close. It was more of a top-down method. This is what is needed. We have to do that because obviously with administration at any level comes those courageous or difficult conversations, right? So I was very top-down. This is what we have to do. The good news at that moment, the teachers bought in. They trusted me coming in, but they knew that we had to do what we had to do. But there was some pushback from staff. They felt we could have done some things differently, and I didn't think, looking back, I'd say it's 2020, I don't think I was as reflective of what they were expressing at that time. So fast forward to Hicks, same thing. So I was kind of recruited to come over to that building to the same thing. It was going to close. So Hicks is the only school in Wayne Westland that's housed in Inkster. So my building is the only one. The other buildings in Wayne Westland are Wayne, Westland, and Canton. So at Hicks, same thing, we had to flip it. We had to come together as a staff. We had a big staff meeting. We talked about what are the gaps, what are the areas that we have to address, and we started talking about the different things that we could do. It was a whole different approach. Yes, there were still things, and there was those courageous conversations, but they were more reciprocated. They were heard, and then we had the but, and we had the why, and then we came to the understanding of what needed to happen. So the reflection piece of there, I would just continue on that same trajectory of the shared leadership because it has been proven so successful under my leadership. Sure.
Mr. Fry.
What is your experience and what would be your approach to managing public school funds, budgets, school millage campaigns, and other fundraising efforts?
So right now there's a lot changing, obviously, with the educational policy, with increasing the per pupil expenditures, the $9,150. And $450 more per pupil. Those are things that I would come in and sit down with our finance person and go line by line item and going over with a zero-based budgeting in mind. Going through it, finding out what are the areas that we need to improve on, what are we currently spending money on. I noticed that your fund balance right now is very, very positive. You actually could spend some money. So I noticed that your fund balance was higher. So I was interested in learning more about that, obviously, but at the same time, going through at the building level, obviously right now, I'm responsible for the building level budgets, of course, with the general fund. I have my general fund budget and I have my Title I budget. I have $350,000-ish every year to spend in Title I funds just for Hicks alone. So balancing that, we have a leadership team at Hicks, we have a school improvement team at Hicks, and we have a PBIS team at Hicks. So just at the building level alone, I've delegated that leadership out. So the staff have very much so have a say in what we need to spend our money on and what's best. And then there comes the piloting. So if there's like a new intervention strategy, it's piloted first. We aren't just dictating like, this is what you're gonna do, teachers. It's piloted. I get the feedback of what is best on their behalf, and then we make the decision collectively.
Did you take part in any, or were you involved in any of the Wayne Westland recent bond renewal village?
Yes, so Hicks just went through a complete bond. I have a brand new gym, it's beautiful. We had to go through that. I had to advocate a lot with our building and grounds department. There were some things that they put in the blueprint that I was able to, fortunately, put my input in on what I did not think was going to be successful for the building, whether I was there and the current leader or somebody else came in. So I was a part of that, advocating on behalf of the bond work, yes. Hicks is almost done. There were some plumbing issues that happened as a part of it. And they are still working on some of that, but they've done a really good job otherwise. Principals in Wayne Westland aren't involved in the cabinet level, of course, decision-making, because there's a large cabinet with being such a larger district. But at the building level, yes, I was able to be a part of that.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Please share your experiences in contract negotiations, labor relations, and managing a team who might have a different idea about how to do the work.
So I am a member of our WABA, Wayne Westland Building Administrators Association. Very proud member of that, as well as I was on the bargaining we just settled last year. I was nominated by my colleagues to be on the bargaining committee for WABA and representing them. So it was a wonderful process, and I felt it was very necessary for me to be a part of it. There was a lot to put on my plate, a lot more meetings and such with the work that I'm doing already as a principal. But I knew that it was something I wanted to be a part of, with knowing that my future, I wanted to be involved with central office and building a district level administration. So there were times where colleagues of mine, other principals, wanted to do something else, and they thought this might be more of a priority to negotiate over versus this. And we had to sit down and meet and as colleagues, talk about that. And what we decided on is to go back to our entire WABA membership and discuss those things of, hey, we need input. We have difference of opinion. So we want to make sure, again, that whole shared leadership piece of what does it look like? What do we need to do? So I've been involved in bargaining for sure. And then also, in addition, from the principal level of being a part of working with all the different unions that are embedded in my building, the relationship is fantastic. One of the letters of recommendation in your folder is from one of my current teachers, who's our union rep in my building, and we have not had the union in my building in, I think the first year they came twice during that big revision of things, and they haven't been back since, in a positive way. And so when he comes over, our president for the teachers especially, he comes over to the building, he's like, hey man, I'm just dropping something off. That's all I'm doing. I'm not here for anything else. I'm like, well, it's nice to see you, and it's like a joke, revolving joke. So I'm super proud of that, knowing that we work together on that. I've worked really well with our food service department. There's been some hiccups with the food and some leadership transitions with our food service department as well. And so we've met with them over the years on different expectations of things that I feel needed to be done a little differently at the building level, and then we talk those things through as well.
What is your vision for a comprehensive professional development plan for our educators? What should our priorities and delivery system be? I don't know, it's missing a word. I think. What should be our priorities and delivery system? Sorry, I can't read.
That's okay. So one of the things I would do, if afforded the opportunity to be the new superintendent, is first and foremost, you have to listen. I mentioned that earlier. The teachers know what they need. They know that what they don't have, and they know what they've never been afforded the opportunity to have or learn from. So first and foremost, one of the things I'm a big proponent for is teachers learning from other teachers. So within this district, regardless of how small, there are teachers that have the opportunity that they could learn from others. So right now, I have instructional rounds at Hicks. So if one of my teachers, during their PLC meeting, they see and they're dissecting their data and they see that they have one of their teachers, their grade level team is doing better on their math scores. And they say, hey, what are you doing differently that I'm not maybe? Can I come and watch you? So they set that up with me. We provide the coverage for the classroom and they get to go and watch their teammate teach and live so they can see that modeling instruction. Or if there's teachers or whichever staff member in the district would like professional development, and that's something I love from when we send maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people, like a little mini team off to a PD, and then we encourage them to come back and they present to their colleagues here in the district. That's a huge thing. It's a leadership opportunity for our current staff to be able to do that and be able to afford them the opportunity to the PD that they want. What professional development do I think is priority? Right now, based on the research that I've done, I think the biggest 2 things for Jefferson, first and foremost, is intervention strategies of different types of professional development on, we can talk all day about tier 1 instruction, tier 2 instruction, or tier 3 instruction in the classroom, but if the teachers are not given the materials that they need for their small group instruction, we can't expect numbers to grow and kids to grow. They have to be given the tools. And currently right now, there are so many different things that we are doing right now in Wayne Wesleyan that I would love to bring to the district and at least introduce. And the first thing I would offer is for teachers in this district to go and watch teachers in Wayne Wesleyan School District, to watch what they're doing with the science behind the science of reading through the letters training and really great reading. There's some amazing opportunities that can be brought to the district through that. The other thing is the truancy piece and the behavior interventions. I think some revisiting of the PBIS program. Some teachers hate the 4 letters of PBIS because they feel like it's just constantly rewarding kids over and over and over. But there's actually so much more to it when you break it down. And there's a lot of new different strategies. But again, if they're not given these tools and the tangible things for the children, it's not going to work and the buy-in won't be there. So through the county or through visiting other districts, the teachers and the staff in this district could learn so much.
I don't want to sound unknowledgeable, but what is PBIS?
Oh, I'm sorry, positive behavior intervention supports. So it's basically just, instead of punitive discipline, we look to reward the students when they're doing things that are good and positive. So if a kiddo, let's say, has struggling with behavior in the classroom, behavior is obviously always communication. So let's say that student hates math. So very quick way, it could be, okay, well, it's time for math. That teacher knows that. The student's actually in their seat and has a pencil ready to go. Boom, they get a little sticker on their sticker chart, like, you're doing a great job, you're ready to learn. Something so small, but it's empowering the student to feel excited about their area that they are not a fan favorite of.
Thank you.
Sure.
It's no secret for the last 20 years, our enrollment has steadily declined. What plan would you put together to build back trust from our community to choose Jefferson over our neighboring schools?
So first and foremost, that has been something that I've been watching the trend. As a member of the rec center myself, my entire family, my youngest goes there all the time. She absolutely loves it. That to me is underutilized. I feel that it could be used in so much larger capacity for a lot more rec programs, bringing in activities for the kids. I think the things that are happening right now, like the Easter things that are happening, I think there was a daddy daughter dance that was there. So there's been some positive things that have been happening for the community to bring them in. And I think that we're on the right track of bringing more things into that rec center. But when you look at, as a member here, I live here, obviously my kids are enrolled in sports through the Flat Rock Ice program, for example, or through airport. I want more here in Jefferson and through our community, because we have the rec center. There's not another district that has that beautiful building. And I feel like we could do so much more. My daughter, when we first moved here 2 years ago, my middle daughter had her birthday party at the pool. So it was like, people were like, what? They do birthday parties there? And I was new to the community, and it was like a shock that I had like 35 kids there. I'm like, yeah, what do you mean? I just asked. Like, the pool's amazing. So those are the types of things I learned really quickly, that we could do a better job at getting that word out, obviously. The other things that I've done in the past is the back to school fairs. So kids, get them excited to come back to school. Obviously, we were all kids. We know that, especially our middle school and high school kids like, oh God, summer's almost over, we gotta go back to school, right? So back to school fairs to make it fun. Is it a dance? Is it back to school dance? Is it, and it's before school starts to help with increasing enrollment. With lots of literature and lots of social media push on the things that are happening in Jefferson and what is new, what is happening, what are the new things that we're able to afford kids now. Elementary level, obviously you can make it like a carnival, bring in the petting farm that comes in, bring in the bounce houses, bring in all the fun different stuff for the kids, the dunk tank, you get to throw the principal in the water, whatever you want to do, either which way, to make it known that we are a family at Jefferson and we want everyone to be here. Mr. Fry.
How would you confront resistance to change and we have always done it this way attitude?
That's a tough one. So I call those conversations a courageous conversation. Those are things that I'm not afraid to do. I do that with parents almost daily when parents are upset at a teacher, if parents are upset about something in the school. I am all about, I absolutely cannot stand email. Email can be totally misconstrued, and it's, in my opinion, when there's something that is tough that's going on, face-to-face is the best way to do it. And providing that staff member or community member or parent or student, whomever it is, the opportunity to sit in front of myself and share their side and their reasons for their pushback and their lack of buy-in to whatever the situation may be. With that listening process comes with the new things of what's going on and data presentation as well as research. So if it's something that is a new initiative, let's say, and we have pushback on that, showing the data and talking about the data and having that individual or individuals present to go over and through that and dissect it together, usually, for the most part, we're on the same page. If the conversation is still, they're not a fan, I talk about how this is what's going to happen. I need you on board because you're unbelievably capable. And I'm going to check in with you because I want your feedback on it. So I don't just leave it like, this is what we're doing, so good luck to you. It's a conversation later, like, talk to me, and I have that person step out of their comfort zone and tell me, what are the positives of what let's say it's a intervention strategy. What are the positives that have come out of it, and what are the things that you don't love about it? And maybe we can tweak some things to make sure that it's meeting your needs as well as the kids. So it's a constant conversation and a working collaborative relationship to make sure that they feel supported and heard.
Thank you.
Sure.
As our leader, what will be the most important priority with the board and staff of the district?
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
As our leader, what will be the most important priority with the board and staff of the district?
So collaboration. As a superintendent, every one of you in front of me would become my best friends. We would be working together more than you could ever imagine. Transparency has to happen at all times. There cannot be any form of guessing or the board finding out that there's a new initiative put in place from something else without having the conversations with the board. We have to have that working collaboration. It's a must. It's not something that it can't happen. And there will be times that the superintendent and the board will have also those courageous conversations and those learning moments of why we're going to do something differently, or can we have your blessing to do X, Y, Z, whatever it happens to be. The priority has to be, there's nothing worse, and I will never forget what it feels like to be a teacher. I say that as a leader all the time. There's nothing worse than being a teacher or a paraprofessional or a bus driver or food service worker or anything, being told this is what we're doing, and they had no wind of it. That means there's a lack and there's a breakdown of communication somewhere. Communication has to happen at all times, whether it's a weekly newsletter that is updated so everybody's in the know from the things that we're doing from the level of the administration building, or if it's the teams that we put in place that we encompass within the district work, because bringing people in from the buildings, they have to be a part of the district level work. That is the only way to get the buy-in, to make sure they're a part of the decision-making process and making sure that their opinions and voices are heard. It has to happen that way.
Mr. McLaughlin.
What causes a school to become excellent?
A family atmosphere. So with that is family atmosphere comes trust and relationships. There is no education without trust and relationships. Our wonderful, I'm trying to like Ruth forgot her name, but kids don't learn from people they don't like. And if we don't have relationships with staff and with principals with teachers and teachers with students and principals with community members and parents and board members with superintendent and board members with everybody else, everybody has to be on the same team. And one of the my motto at Hicks, we have a hashtag for our social media. Our hashtag is Hicks Hustles Harder. And we really take pride in that because we hustle harder at all times to make sure that we're meeting the needs of students at all times. Sometimes that's not about math and reading, literacy and writing. Sometimes it's about, did that student have a warm meal last night? Does that student have clean clothes? Does that student going through parents that are currently in a divorce situation? Is that something that we need more support for the student that is outside of the academic deficits of constantly pushing academics? If the basic needs of children are not met first, there will not be educational improvement, period.
With the addition of the middle college at Jefferson High School next year, what plan would you bring to build on our CTE courses like construction trades to compete with our neighboring schools?
So I love that question because that is something that we in Wayne Wesleyan, we are known for our CTE program. It's absolutely humongous. It's beautiful. It's phenomenal. So first and foremost, I would love to continue the partnership. It's actually something I've spoken to with our leaders in Wayne Wesleyan that oversee that program, is connecting and bringing the people from Jefferson to go and observe and see that, of what things we're capable of that program to bring here, because it's obviously much bigger with the amount of students that we have there. But it would be so beneficial for the staff and the administrators to go view. And I would have that continued partnership always. It's fabulous. With that being said, our trades program is competing right now. Monroe High School's program, for example, is absolutely phenomenal. They are known for it. Kids are leaving college left and right to go into the trades program, and it is a huge competitor with us. From the research and the networking that I've done in the community and through Jefferson, I have been told lots of different ideas that staff want to do through the CTE program, and they've not been afforded the opportunity to do so. So through food service, what's our culinary program look like? I have a sister who college was absolutely not for her. She went right while she was in high school, started the cosmetology program. Do we have that here in Jefferson? I know for a fact if we took a Google survey, something as simple as that with our students at the high school and asked interests of things they want to do when they graduate high school, there's got to be a handful of young ladies or young men that want to go into the cosmetology realm. Bringing in people from outside in to make sure that we can expand that program, because college is absolutely not for everybody, and we need to make sure that we have areas of interest. We won't know those areas of interest if we don't listen to the students and the staff first. They know what the students are talking about. Again, they're with them every day. I would be a fool as a superintendent to try to say, oh, we need this program because we, by golly, have kids that want it. Well, I wouldn't know that. I would have to talk with the staff and the students. So something as simple as surveys of what are the needs, what we currently have, and then what things can we look at outside of this district that we don't have that's competing with us, and where are we losing our kids, and how do we get them back?
That concludes our questions for you. So, okay. Thank you for the thoughtful conversation. We have gotten to know you a lot better. Now we'll give you the opportunity to learn what you might want to know about us. So what questions do you have for us?
So I wrote down a couple just through my networking as well as my research on the district before coming here this evening. I see that intervention is mentioned often. I know in your PowerPoint presentation that was just given to the board recently about the mitigating learning loss, lots of discussion about summer school. So in my experience, summer school is not going to necessarily fix the gaps. It cannot be just a summer school program. I've noticed that the data, your kindergarten is meeting the growth at 50% or more in their NWEA data, but then every year the trajectory gets lower and lower and lower through 8th grade, and the gap widens. So what things has Jefferson offered the teachers and the staff that are in the front lines with the students daily to help with their interventions? Like tier 1.
Not enough. We have put in place interventionists, like there's an actual position of someone who comes in and maybe specializes in math or reading. I think that's at the elementary level, the middle school level, and the high school level. I think it needs to be more because it is a struggle. I don't like to blame everything on COVID. but we took a decline after COVID.
Sure.
In the struggle just to get kids to come to school. I'm sure you see it where you're at.
Absolutely.
It's not mandatory, it's an option in a lot of people's mind. I can stay home. So that's something that's on the forefront for me. I can't speak for every board member here, but intervention that needs to happen on every level. But right now, what we're doing is just single-eyes interventions in each building.
Okay. So there's not been a specific intervention tool given to the interventionists? Or, okay,
Not that if it's
Can
happening,
I ask a question? Need my tool.
Yeah, of
Some
course.
type tool.
Yeah, so like letter training, like the science of reading, for example. So right now, Jefferson's data is screaming there's a gap in reading, but you have a much larger learning gap in math. Your math scores are significantly lower than your reading right now. But I referenced earlier, like letters training or really great reading, things of that nature that the teachers can use in their classrooms. One of the things we do, the UFly, which is the University of Florida Literacy Institute. UFly are MTSS teachers, so I'm assuming like your interventionists. That's an initiative that they use in K2.
We started, I don't know if it's all grades.
elementary.
Yeah, and I know they have it at both the elementary buildings. I'm not sure if it's used across the board, but
Okay.
my kiddos both have that.
The other question I had is, I kind of touched on it earlier, but the rec center being a luxury here in the community, is there any plans to expand more on the rec center and to increase more programs and activities to help increase our enrollment?
So, I know they didn't expand the membership.
Okay.
So before it was the community based and it went a little further, obviously out of community members, the price is a little bit more than the in community members. As far as the programs go,
That's up where our athletic director has been working on for the last couple of years to add more programs each year.
Okay.
But it is something that we definitely want to see grow. Like you said, not many districts have that building.
Yeah, no,
It's a gym. And underutilized sometimes, I think.
yeah, the fact that when I went to sign up 2 years ago with my family of 5 and walked in and they were like, that's $150. And I'm like, no, there's 5 of us, not just me. And they're like, no, that's it. I'm like, what? I was like, for 5 of us. That's amazing, obviously, but I was astonished, at the price of things. But I understand that everybody, has different things, but just the capacity of which that building could offer is a great deal. The other thing is the next question would be like the enrollment process of what's the roll down effect of curriculum adoption in the district? So I know based on research that there's, that I've looked into at least, and I could be wrong, but that curriculum hasn't been updated in a minute. I think from my understanding that you just did a new high school ELA and we're looking, okay. But obviously there's more across that, but what does that look like for teachers being able to pilot several different types of curriculum first and then being able, does that happen? How does that work with the?
Well, we just did the curriculum, but
We just adopted it.
Okay.
it was just board approved, I think, 2 meetings ago.
Oh, okay.
But our interim superintendent with our curriculum consultant did a lot of research with the staff, bringing them in, like core groups. I think chair leads first, building principals, chair leads, and then into the classroom.
Okay.
The principals were all involved in choosing the curriculum.
Okay.
And they should have brought in teams of their teachers to do that.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. That's a big part. I'm on the curriculum adoption at Wayne Westland, so it's important. That's a very important part of it, right? The rollout to get that buy-in and make sure.
It was outdated for sure.
Okay. And my last question is the obvious. Obviously, I want this to be as much a part of what I want, as much as to be all of you what you want for your district, obviously for superintendent, but what are you specifically looking for as a board on behalf of representing the entire district in your new superintendent?
I'll go first. We're looking for boots on the ground. We need someone who is dedicated to the family. You said it in a lot of your questions. Somebody who looks at the staff as family, the staff as family. But the biggest thing is you can't do that if you're not here. So presence in the district sporting events, you touched on it earlier, but it's all gonna be relationship building in my mind. And the first part of the job is relationship building, and once that happens, we get a lot done. And you guys can add to that if you like.
I definitely like what you said about communication because there are so many breakdowns that can happen. So being able to go to one place and for everybody to have the same information at the same time is really important to me.
I'm big on the leadership. We got a work cut out for us in the future, and to have a good leader will go a long ways in the community, with kids coming back here. All of the things we've asked tonight have to do with a good leader. So that's
I guess my other thing would just be programs, seeing more programs introduced into the district so our kids can actually have different opportunities, which I don't think we offer enough right now. We do. It's slowly making its way, but I think having that stride with the leadership and everything else, the positivity, getting to know people and hearing what they want, but then putting it into action.
Vocal leadership, presence. You have to be here, you have to be heard. Social media, we're not saying enough about what we have, what we can do, and what we offer. We need to say more. We need to stand, I say it every week, we have to stand up and yell to people what we have, what we can give. Every school down the street, it's not always the answer. It's not ever the answer. We just need to make sure that we're heard. And the only way we can be heard is by our leader. Our leader has to be the loudest one, has to be the strongest one, bottom line, the strongest one.
All right. Do you have anything else you would like to share as a closing statement?
No, just that, I mean, yes. I said no, yes. And then I started talking. So, I mean, I feel like I did a lot of talking, obviously. One of the things that I think sets me apart from other candidates are the things that, the biggest things that I would address is coming in, if I was afforded the opportunity, are the things that are my areas of expertise. If you lined up all of my previous staff in my last 11 years as a principal, or you asked my current superintendent, my jam is culture and climate, my jam is energy and vocal leadership. My jam is special education. We have issues in the district with special education and lack of partnership with the ISD. I'm a boundary crasher. I'm somebody that comes in and tackles it face to face. We have to put the elephant in the room. We have to figure out the why. And that is something that I'm capable of doing. This district was always known as the powerhouse. And to be honest with you, in the community, I'm sick and tired of hearing, well, they lost the Fermi money, Amy. And I'm like, oh my God, stop saying that. It's like, I don't want to hear it anymore. The Fermi money, just stop. God, it's so annoying. And so I don't even work here yet, hopefully. And I hear it too much. And there's so much, and I agree with you, Mr. Foster, that there's so much that is happening here. And I only learned that based on the communication that I had. And as a parent in the community, there are things through my own admission to all of you that I was not made aware of that the district is currently doing. And it's important that I say that out loud. So the fact that I didn't know, and I'm a current educator myself, through this research of this process, I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to be here today in front of all of you and all the people that are watching and all of you that came in here today on your evening, because I'm learning so much more because I live here. I actually got here at 5:30 because I'm used to driving 45 minutes to work every day, and I forgot that it's a 3-minute drive. So I literally pulled in and I'm like, oh, I was embarrassed to come in too soon. I was like, stay in the car. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So I think it would be an honor and a privilege to be here and to live here. Like I said, just being at Mass on Sunday for Easter, people coming up to me, being somebody that's here and current and a part of the community speaks volume to my character and who I am. And I've learned so much about the school district through my own research to prepare me for tonight, through that process as a parent first and as an educator second. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you again for joining us this evening and for your interest in Jefferson schools and the children that we serve. We expect to discuss our first round interviews as soon as the last one is completed tomorrow night. We hope to identify one or more finalists and schedule remaining interview dates. So we'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yes.
Good night. Enjoy your 3-minute drive home.
Yes. Thank you. It was wonderful. I have to be honest. mind if I just thank you again for your time? I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Thank you so much. You too. Thank you. Thank you. You too. Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care, guys. Thanks again.
For those in the audience, we appreciate any suggested follow-up questions you might recommend for this candidate. Fill out the form and hand it in to Mr. Haynes at this time.
These are really helpful in the event this candidate comes back for a second round. Or not specific questions for each candidate. What's missing? Specific to the candidate.
So Dan, we have 5 minutes left. We start.
You doing good? Yep, we're good on time. So, we'll keep the same question format.
Yeah, you've got one for each candidate, so please hang on to them in your language.
No, Dan, I'm not.
Right all over.
I'm just I know we're reading the card.
Nice to meet you. Sorry. Yeah, I know your fault. I'm serious, because I'm gonna go home and get my call. Oh, 3 minutes. 6 minutes. I got 6 minutes. Oh, shit, I'll be back. No way. Nice Nicky, don't. No, gosh. No. We started. Seriously.
That was amazing. You know what?
Seriously. I don't have any ideas right now, sorry. I usually keep some in there too.
No, I drove.
Those do great.
It's great for me. Yeah, I like the way you work. Yeah. My kids are 4 years. That's what I'm doing here.
A little while.
Yeah. Yeah. I tried talking. Yeah. You know, probably.
I know.
She's
I'm gonna.
Teacher day.
Format work for you?
I still talk.
Never told.
All that matters. Former students like it.
I would answer.
Yeah. Like it's there.
It's right here.
Always gotta zoom in.
You have the headache?
I just can't, ibuprofen. Just like the real that you want to do.
The person I guess, 45 minutes.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
I need to be retired.
It's how much you want to pay. I'm on. However much homework he has. Really?
don't you do that?
Man, hey, I have travel eye drops. I didn't even, I was going to throw them in the garbage. I ended up taking my left one out. I had it was like a piece of dirt or a stream. I was like, it was straight out. Guess who's like,
Yeah, streaming, nothing's inside.
is it on me? No.
He said to just leave it on. Just fine.
Me right now. We may be late.
That's what's going on. Right umbrella, I see.
I know.
Good again, Rob. I know I did. At least I heard you. I stuck in a couple pieces before I came in her house.
Well, that's the, yeah. If you want to switch.
I didn't realize.
You know, I can only push in so far. Better, right?
Trump.
I'm glad, Yes, yes, I did. He knew, he knows I'm here about this.
Wait to get my.
Our next candidate is Dr. Sean Whiteman, and he is here. Would you like-
Sorry, I'm a little wet. Raining when I came in.
Have a seat. Good evening. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to welcome Sean Whiteman to our district. I would also like to thank stakeholders who have joined us for this important work. I'll take just a moment to describe our format after our board members introduce themselves. Mr. Fryer.
Thomas Fryer.
Corey McLaughlin.
Shane Foster.
Dan Stone.
Jackie Lancaster.
Ignacio Gerald Jr.
Ron Better.
The initial interview should take about an hour. We have 15 questions. We will ask, board members may ask follow-up questions if needed. After we have finished with our questions, we will give our candidate the opportunity to ask questions of the board. We will welcome any closing statements the candidate would like to offer. Peter Haynes from Michigan Leadership Institute is here to help keep me on schedule. Audience members may be most helpful in submitting questions on the forms located near the doorway entrance. The board will consider these suggestions specific to each candidate. If the form is signed, the questions are not duplicates or illegal, and time permits during second round interview. The task of choosing our next superintendent is the responsibility of the Board of Education and the representatives of the community. We appreciate the perspectives of our staff and community in this process. While we are not seeking recommendations as to which individual should be hired, we are seeking your input in terms of identifying and verifying evidence of skills and attributes about each candidate. Please keep in mind the factors we may not legally use as a basis of our hiring decisions. They are printed at the bottom of the form. Mr. Haynes will collect these forms at the end of the interview. And if we're all ready, we'll get started. As an opener, while the board has had the opportunity to review your resume, our audience has not. Would you please briefly review your professional background and experience in public education and other relevant work?
Sure. First off, I want to thank everybody for staying here. I know there's another candidate here. I also want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come in to interview for this important position. It's an honor, and also I'm excited about having the opportunity to be spending some time with you. In terms of my qualifications, I have over 30 years of education experience at the elementary as well as the secondary levels. I have also spent time in a lot of variety of different leadership roles. I'm currently a middle school principal. I've also served as committee and building leaders and also worked with district administration, specifically the superintendent at the superintendent level. I've worked with strategic planning, also curriculum development, assessment. I've been a building chair for public relations, also a building chair for buildings and grounds. I've served as a school improvement chair both at the district as well as the building levels. I'm also a Title IX coordinator. I've also served as an investigator and also a decision maker for those positions as well. I've served as a curriculum chair. I'm currently the district curriculum chair for math, for secondary mathematics. I've also served as a art district curriculum chair, a fine arts coordinator. I'm the Performing Arts Center coordinator for our district currently at this time. I've also served 14 years as a building rep, as a union rep for my teaching unit that I served under. In addition to that, I have also worked towards getting my doctorate in education policy. I have a minor in business administration and statistics. Those are my areas of expertise. I have certification for central office. I have certification for K-12 leadership, ed leadership. Those are just some of the highlights that I have that I've mentioned what I've done. In addition to that, I've sought out training on the process that you need to go through to become superintendent. A lot of candidates have not served in that or done that. Maybe a couple have already served as superintendents. I have a certificate from the Michigan Leadership Institute. I also have an emergency financial manager certificate through the state of Michigan. I have a CPI, I'm CPI trained, which is crisis prevention intervention, which is something that is very important. I think that schools need to have training in. So those are just a few of my highlights. I also want to let you know I'm a proud father of 3 daughters. My wife and I have been married for over 31 years. Our oldest daughter is currently finishing up her doctorate in physical therapy. She will be finished in December of this year. We also have our other daughter who is finished up her college career. Both of my daughters played Division I volleyball. I'm also a Division I athlete as well. My wife also played sports in college. Our youngest daughter is 11. So she's currently a middle schooler and she's playing travel volleyball, which is why my wife is not here with us and neither is my youngest daughter. So that's what brings me here today. I feel that my background matches your posting and your need for a new superintendent, and I feel like I have a lot that I can offer you, and that's why I'm here. Thank you. Can I also add one more thing? You know, my wife and I we can be very selective in where we choose to apply for our careers at the end of our career here. And when just making this decision to apply here, there's some factors you have to look into. Is it a good fit? Does the community share the same values and morals that you do as a person? And I know Jefferson Schools does share a lot of those characteristics that we're looking for. We're not looking for a district that's too big, where a student can get lost. We're looking for a district that's not super small either. We're looking for a place where we grew up, very similar to a location where we grew up, is Richmond, which is a small farming community up near Romeo in Armada. We're also looking for a place that has the same values we have. And those values are placed in education, also family, faith, and friends. Those are the things that I know that Jefferson Schools does have in the area and the community that you do have here. That's why another reason why we chose to look at this district very closely.
How do you think various stakeholders, parents, community, staff, and even students should be involved in setting the direction for our school?
Well, when you set up your strategic plan, you want to revisit your mission and vision oftentimes when you do have a new superintendent, or when after so many years, to see if it actually matches what your demographics and your constituents that you represent, is it matched your needs as a community? And I have served on a variety of, or a number of superintendents' strategic planning committees to help with that. And that process involves including parents, local business owners, and also local community leaders. It also involves students, as well as your teachers, as well as your building administration. Your entire school community is involved in that process. So I believe very strongly, and have always done this in my positions that I have served, you want to build collaborative relationships, but also consensus towards making decisions. That way you can get buy-in. But not only that, everybody has a common vision for what you want for your community. And I feel that that's the best way to handle situations when you are looking for changes and adjustments, rather than just make them blindly without keeping people informed in a part of the process.
Please tell us how you will establish yourself as a committed presence in our district.
Well, the first thing you have to begin building relationships with the people that you work with. Also the community members that you work with, your board members. You have to start to establish that trusting and build that trusting relationship with people. And how do you do that? You have to be present. You have to be available. You have to be transparent. You also have to invite people in to help make decisions as you do come up to or against making some difficult ones. And there are difficult decisions that a lot of boards are needing to have to make decisions on. So that's something that's very important when you are working towards building that type of capacity. So, but being present, being at events, and I have to tell you, again, I'm a very strong advocate for a strong fine arts program. I am by trade an art teacher. My daughter and both my daughters, all my daughters have been involved with the band boosters and also playing instruments. My daughter currently is in our middle school band. So we also have nephews and other family members that also have children that are part of that group and also part of that education program. So those are things that I value. being at those events demonstrates that you support them. Also, I want to let you know that we started a robotics program in my building based on the need and also the interest of our student population. I've developed an esports program for my school in my district to give students an opportunity to actually benefit from those skills that they currently have and get scholarships. I have 2 seniors that are looking to get scholarships that are going to have opportunities that they would otherwise not have been given that opportunity. So being at the athletic events is very important as well. Show support for your school and also your community. Those are things that you can do to demonstrate that you're committed to the community as well. But I also want to add too, I'm also a strong advocate for also being a part of the community at large. I'm a Lions Club member over in Silver Creek Township, which is where I reside. I'm also a KFC member, so Knights of Columbus. So those are things that I feel very important in service, in that service leadership is something I also really strive to make sure I follow through on as well. It's kind of like when you are growing up, somebody was there to help you in your things that you're wanting to achieve. Someone's there, and it's now my turn to give back in my own way as well.
Mr. Fryer.
We understand other districts, including some you may have served, operate with a large team of leaders who focus on specific roles. Given our size, what roles do you expect to play in a variety of critical functions?
Well, one of the things you need to provide is you need to provide support for your team that you have in place to help them make decisions and also give them guidance when they come up to situations that are difficult. So really one of those roles is going to be being someone who is going to delegate, but also help facilitate the needs of your team leadership. I'm talking about your building administration, also your union leadership, and being supportive and working with your union leadership and trying to find out solutions to some situations that are going to occur over time. But collaborating with those groups and making sure that you're providing feedback, but also feedback that's research-based. I don't think it's very good decision to oftentimes make decisions without having to look at what has already been done and what are some of the things that have been proven to help make those decisions more effective. So, but providing that kind of guidance, and I can give you an example. Again, it's providing support for your people who are in leadership positions. We are in the process of identifying and finding a brand new curriculum for our math series for our secondary students. This is an area that we have had some concerns with in terms of our student outcomes. I had a math department chair that helped spearhead that process. And what I did was I provided her with guidance and where she could get information to help make good decisions on what programs we felt would be the best fit for our student needs and our current needs at their district level. So I provided her with some peer-reviewed research, a website called edreports.org, which again is peer-reviewed. It's all reviewed by professionals in education for educators. And we went and we made she went and she selected a few programs that we went through and our committee looked at, and our district committees at the secondary level looked at, and our math departments at both the middle school and high school reviewed, and then they made the recommendation of which of those programs or math series that we thought were the most effective. And it was based on research and also peer-reviewed information. It wasn't just, let's pick one and this one looks good to us. So, and the one that we did select was fully aligned with the state Common Core, which ended up helping boost our math scores instantly first year.
In some instances, if we don't have a lot of staff here, you might have to do some of those things yourself. How would you feel about that?
I would feel very strongly and good about doing those things, but I want to tell you, when one person makes decisions, typically mistakes are going to be made, and I don't care who the person is. You do want to make sure you reach out to the people who do have experience using these resources when you are having to have to select them, because they're the ones using them in the classrooms. So I don't feel like making that type of decision without including the people that it impacts is really a good choice for me. But I will say that I have no problems helping support and also making tough decisions when those decisions have to be made. And I have done that.
Thank you.
Mr. McLaughlin?
What do you see as the biggest challenges in serving children with special needs? And how should those challenges be addressed?
Okay, so we have a very large population of students that qualify for special education services. We have about 25% of our student population. Looks like here, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, based on my research, it's about 18%. So you cannot ignore the needs of those particular students because they have needs that oftentimes require more effort and more intensive supports. So what are the challenges with that? Is number one, are we meeting our students' special education service needs and also are we meeting their IEP goals? Is that what we're doing as a staff? Are we making sure that our staff are informed about what are the accommodations that are needed for that particular student in that classroom and making sure that they're getting those accommodations? So also providing staff with the tools and things necessary to help them implement them in the classroom. And how I have worked to do that is on a number of fronts. First off, we have a large at-risk budget, but I also have a large special education budget as well that I utilize. We have worked to secure a special education paraprofessional that works specifically with students who are in those classrooms and also in resource rooms. Well, resource room is a classroom where a teacher, a special education certified teacher, works with those students to help them in their core classes so that they are completing and turning in work so that they can earn a grade. But I want to tell you, additionally, in addition to that, what I have done is I have also worked to make sure that those classes that those students are in are not a circus for a teacher to have to manage. And here's what I mean by that. Oftentimes, a resource special education classroom that does provide those services is set up where you have multiple age levels of students in that classroom. That to me is almost impossible for a special education teacher to manage. Why? Because you have to know what every student is doing in every one of their core classes. So what I have done is I have set up our resource classrooms or support classrooms where they're grade specific. Now that's not always possible, folks. I'm just letting you know it's not always possible, but it is possible because we have such a large population of students with disabilities. We had to meet their needs. We had to change the schedule, our master schedule, to meet that goal. And it has made a difference. So here's another thing that I have looked at as well. Making sure you CYA what you do. Because oftentimes parents, and they are entitled to know, are you meeting my child's accommodations in your teacher's classroom, in my teacher, in your classroom as a teacher? Well, you have to demonstrate that you are. So you have to show evidence. So we have developed a way to document that. And it's not difficult, but just to make sure that we're documenting when a student refuses services, but also when I'm providing them. And I can give you more detail about that. We got more to share. But those are just a couple.
Mr. Becker?
How would you help us to build a more productive, trusting, effective, and communicative relationship with our ISD?
Well, I don't know. That's a unique question. I'm just assuming that there has been some challenges or maybe opportunities. So I will tell you right now, I work very closely with our current ISD. And one of my references is an actual school improvement ISD coordinator. And I work very closely with them because they help us with providing extra support and services and training for my teachers for areas that we're really needing to have help with. So here's an example. We had them provide training for our staff and our teachers in the area of small group instruction for mathematics. We have done a really good job of implementing our core instruction, but the small group instruction, finding the time to work with your small groups to target your instruction and help for your students who are high and in your intermediate and in your low. And working, what do those groups look like? Another area that we really wanted to have a lot of help and support is through formative assessment. That's the best assessment, okay? Formative assessment is when you, and I'm getting jargon, I'm sorry. Okay. It's when, it's like you're a cook. I'm a teacher, I'm cooking, I have a meal, I'm cooking my learning for my students, okay? And you're always wanting to test to see if the recipe is actually tasting good, like the learning that's happening in the room. So rather than me just serve a meal, which is your final test, here's your final test, hopefully you pass. Prior to that, I'm testing my ingredients. Are my students understanding the instruction that I'm providing them in the classroom? And then with the formative assessment is you're working to test students' understanding before you get to that final test. You're testing your ingredients. How well am I teaching? By checking kids' understandings or levels of understanding. And that's something that has to be done. So we work with our ISD to help provide training for that. For our new teachers, one of the biggest challenges for districts right now is securing highly qualified teachers. Well, you have to have supports for those teachers in place. We have mentors. I've had a veteran teacher paired up with a new teacher. That's one way, but another way is providing opportunities for those teachers to go to trainings. And our ISD works very closely with me on providing some training for those new staff. But how do I build the communication? You have to work with your local ISD and also tell them what are your needs. But those needs have to be communicated based on what you're finding out from your teaching staff in your school communities. Surveying and asking questions, having conversations, speaking with your building administration, those things have to be done. And then you can start to build that relationship of letting people know, this is what I need. ISDs are always wanting to help your districts. Okay, they're not there to be an adversary. They're always willing to want to help. They just need to know how, or at least know what to do to help and provide support.
We all understand hindsight is 20/20. Can you share an example when you made a leadership decision you would do differently today?
I think oftentimes when I first started out, you sometimes want to get things done. You want to go fast, okay? And I think sometimes when you get to that level, when you don't have a lot of that opportunity or time where you've been with people, you kind of want to make decisions, but without having other people having input. And I've learned that over time, that's the best way that you get to where you want to go. So here's an example. We are a PBIS school, okay, and I'm not talking through all jargon here, but what it is basically it's a reward system for positive behavior. You want to teach the behaviors that you want your students to demonstrate in all your learning environments, okay? Well, we had to select an acronym. Typically, you pick an acronym of things that you want to highlight, okay? And ours was HERO, okay? And what we did is a school, they had already established what HERO means. But there were some pieces missing. I felt that we had to kind of add something because typically, and again, HERO was being helpful, engaged, respectful, and take ownership. Those were the things that they emphasized at the building. But I felt like at that time, we're missing a piece. We're missing the empathy piece. We're missing that component. So I said, okay, what if we looked into doing heroes? And there was a lot of grumbling, a lot of conversation. Okay, but we adopted that. And then what we ended up doing is we started to build what this means to our building in our district, or what does this mean to, but how do we facilitate it? And oftentimes, when again, you want to go fast, you want to facilitate it at your level. But there was a component missing. It was the classroom component. So I would typically have the introduction of where I would go over each of what these words mean and what does it mean in our school and all of our learning environments, in the cafeteria, the hallways, the performing arts center, our media center, also in our classrooms. but then it didn't get taught in the classroom. So what I had to do is I had to step back and say, okay, we're getting this done, but we need to include it being taught in other environments. And then teaching staff became more a part of that process, which helped us improve our outcomes. So for example, when I first started out as a building administrator, there was a lot of concerns over behavior. We had to get that in alignment in order for our students to learn in the classroom. I did a very good job of helping get that established. We reduced our referrals by about 20%, but we still had to do better because really the focus was not on learning, it was on addressing behavior problems in the classrooms and also in other environments. So by having staff work together and collaborate and make decisions on how do we provide that instruction, how do we reward those behaviors we want, we reduced our referral rate to another 20 to 25%. So in 2 years, we reduced the referrals that were extremely high before I got there by 40%. So now teachers were focusing more on instruction. But that happened after we had to go back to the drawing board. And you know, it's okay to make mistakes, but it's also okay. It's letting people know that we need to work on this together to find a better solution.
Mr. Fryer.
What is your experience and what would be your approach to managing public school funds, budgets, school village campaigns, and other fundraising efforts?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways to handle budgets. I mean, I have a very large at-risk budget. I have a very large Title I budget. I do get a general fund budget, a special education budget. So what you do is you got to prioritize what are your needs over your wants and to make sure that those are being done. Those things are being serviced first. And that is done through conversations with staff, parents, as well as other stakeholders in those roles, like your building administration. Oftentimes your building administration has a good idea of what they need to have in those classrooms and also in their buildings to make sure that they have that opportunity to share out what they're finding out from where they're at. And then once you have established those needs, then you have to prioritize where the money goes. Again, my background is, I have a business finance background. Zero-based budgeting is one way I've seen it, but it works pretty well. And I'm not saying it's the only way, but you have different pools of money that you place funds in. You have your expenses, okay? You have your savings. You have a very healthy fund balance of about 20% or approximately $4 million, which is very good to have in case of you need it. And then you have your debt that you have to pay back, bonds. So right now, I would say that it probably would be not cost effective to go for a bond if there was something that you're looking to do because the interest rates are so high. But when interest rates do drop, and if you have a bond that's higher, you can look to refinance and save money for your community. Here's another option that I've seen too, where people are putting some of their funds that they have and putting them into CDs, a short-term investment of a CD. So if you put $1 million away and you're getting almost 6%, you know, you're going to get about $60,000 in 6 to 7 months. I mean, I think there's some things that you can do that are creative to help raise additional funds for you that will help pay for things that you need. In terms of fundraising, it's something I've done often. I've been involved with foundations where you raise funds through special events. We have an event that we're doing in my building currently that we're going to have for it's a fundraiser for Mother's Day. We're going to have a craft show, a spring craft show. And those funds we're going to be putting into our activities account where we can pay for things for our students through our PBIS program. We also have foundation grants that we provide for our staff to help supplement things that they do in their classrooms. And that's done through a golf outing where we all volunteer to provide and help provide support so that ends up becoming very successful. And it raises a lot of funds to help help, that goes into our classrooms to help out special programs. In terms of bonds, I've been involved with bond committees. I've also been involved with how those funds are to be utilized and to identify and target the amounts that you need for specific things that you're looking to do to accomplish with those bond funds. I know you have a recreation center, which is I'm not saying it's unheard of, but for the size community, that's a great community thing that you provided for your school community that will give kids opportunity and also other families to come to spend time together. So that's something I think is an outstanding thing that you've used to provide for your families.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please share your experience in contract negotiations, labor relations, and managing a team who might have different ideas about how to do the work.
Okay, well, I told you I was a union rep for a number of years. I've served on, I've seen it on both sides, served on both sides. I will say interest-based bargaining has always been something that I found is a much more transparent way to negotiate. Both sides share exactly what they're looking to accomplish, and that way there are no hidden agendas. Just put it right there. Here's what we want. Here's what we're looking to try to change and adjust. So those are things that I've been very closely involved with. In terms of managing a team, you typically will caucus. We'll go back and forth, have conversations about what things are being offered and what things are being requested. We have to look at legacy contracts, see if you can fund what people are asking you to pay for. I mean, the majority of your budget is going to be held up in your teacher's salaries or your staff salaries, benefits, and retirement. That's about almost 80 to 85% of your budget. And are we being responsible and fiscally responsible with that? But we also want to let teachers know we appreciate what they do and also our staff, and want to make sure we're fair with what types of raises that we are providing. But you also have to be responsible, making sure that you have those funds available. I mean, I did notice that there, again, I'm just through my research that, you have about 1,300 students, a little over 1,300 students here. And I did notice that there are a lot of students that aren't coming here. And, why is that? You have school of choice students from other areas coming, the airport, Gibraltar, and then South Redford. And then you have a lot of kids leaving. So there's over 500 students right there. That's revenue that could be coming into your schools. So how do you address that? And also what opportunities can that provide you? The one thing I do want to say that I really like that your programs here at your schools have is you have a daycare program in your early childhood center. You have Young Fives, you have GSRP. You also have preschool, daycare. Those are things that help bring families to your district, which you're doing. And you also have this early childhood special education program. That to me is outstanding and is going to bring in additional revenue just from that end. So, but negotiating contracts, I have a lot of experience with that. I've also served on administrative committees, but you have to be willing to also give and take. You've got to you have to bend at times. Sometimes it's hard.
Absolutely.
What is your vision for a comprehensive professional development plan for our educators, and what should be our priorities and delivery system?
Well, let me say, when you invest in teachers, you're investing in students. It's just how it works. And one thing that I have witnessed as both an educator, a teacher, as well as an administrator, is when you have PD one year and you're thinking you're implementing one thing, and then all of a sudden it completely changes the next year. There's no continuity. Okay, that's one thing I feel that makes staff very frustrated. It also changing the direction of where you're trying to head and you're making headway, and then all of a sudden you make a 180. It happens, but it shouldn't. So I think it's very important to get feedback from your teacher leaders. Also, you have to look at your data to determine where are your areas of concern and what areas are opportunities for you to grow and improve. It should also be based on research. It should not be, oh, I think we're going to do this today. And then, we'll throw mud at, or throw something at the wall, hopefully it'll stay. We don't want to waste our resources. And based on my own dissertation, it's not how much money you have, it's how you use it. So when you do make those decisions, you want to include those people who have the most, are closest to it, but also it should be research-based and it should be efficient in terms of how you utilize your resources. Maybe utilizing your ISD, who have professional development trainers in both reading and math and also school improvement that can come in and help provide support. Maybe it's your teachers who have experts already in the building that can provide training for your staff on technology and use of various resources that are out there that help with your other teaching staff. I have to tell you, some of the things that I've learned from my peers over and above anybody who I pay to come in or we pay to come in to have a great initial program, and then all of a sudden it fizzles out because there's no support underneath it. You also have to provide the funding and support to make sure that it is implemented effectively. Because if you just start at the beginning of the year and you forget about it, it's ineffective. It's not, you're wasting your time and money. So what's your return on your investment? And then what you do is just like how you do at the end of every year. You do a program evaluation, and you love that. If you're a teacher in the building or here, program evaluations are always fun to do. You have to evaluate whether or not the program that you're funding is actually effectively doing what it's supposed to do. And oftentimes, sometimes you can find new ideas, odds, offshoots, and things that don't work.
Touched on this a little bit earlier, so it's right in the wheelhouse. For the last 20 years or so, our enrollment has steadily declined. What plan would you put together to build trust back from our community to choose Jefferson over our neighboring school system?
Well, what I have experienced is you got to get your narrative out there. What is Jefferson Schools really to do a good job with? Okay, what are we known for? And you have to get people to promote it. You have very good athletics programs, outstanding fine arts, excellent band, facilities, location. But are you communicating those great things to your community? Okay, now we just talked about 500 plus 576 to the exact families that I looked at that aren't coming here. Okay, well, you got to make a decision. Am I going to spend my money to try and chase somebody or an ex-girlfriend, okay, or a boyfriend to come back? Are we spending our money to do that? Or are we going to spend our money with the people we have here to promote what we currently do, and they realize I made a mistake, and then they do come back. But the narrative that you put out there through social media, also through your local newspapers, your internet, in terms of like your broadcasts, promoting your school is essential. And public relations is something that maybe you need to maybe we look at that differently and say, okay, how can we get this to become a bigger part of what we do here? Okay, once you start doing that, then people start to notice Jefferson Schools, and they may decide, I'm going to move into the community, or I'm moving back into the schools. I've had teachers who've left my building. I always support people who want to work in the places they want to go. I always do. I will write people letters. I will give them great recommendations because they want to do something that they feel they need to do, or they want to go to a place closer to where they live. And then they come back because they realize I really did have it really good. So that's something that you need to look at. But are we going to spend the money chasing somebody? Are we going to spend the money in a more creative way to demonstrate what we do here well as a district and let people know what and who Jefferson Schools is? And I've done that. And if you go to my websites that I have, you can see a litany of things that we've done or promoted, just so we get our narrative out there. Because when you have something bad that happens, okay, you have something, then sometimes that one bad thing that everybody is so upset about, it goes away real quick. Because you have 1,000 great things that you've had happen before that. So you have to make sure people understand what those great things are and communicate it and get your word out. Because this is a great district.
Mr. Fry.
How would you confront resistance to change and the "we have always done it this way" attitude?
Okay. All right, I'm gonna say this and people might get upset. Okay, generally, there's 3 types of staff. Okay, and I'm not saying that they're all fit in these categories. Okay, you have one group that are called resistors. Okay, and you have another group that are called fence sitters, and then you have another group that are called early adopters. Okay, those are your teacher leaders. Those are your staff leaders. Those are the people that are here to serve and to move the district forward. I spend my time with most of my, or almost all my time with my early adopters. And then once we build a plan, we communicate that plan, we implement it, okay? And then the fence sitters, who could go this way or that way, start to get off the fence. But I want to also let you know it's very important to listen to your resistors. Why? Because you've got to know how to address them. You can't ignore that. If you ignore your resistors, then you're ignoring their reality. So, but eventually, over time, your teacher leaders and your fence sitters that get off the fence will start to move your district in the direction you want it to go. And that's how you build change. Change is something that happens over time. It can be quick. It may take a long time. It also means revisiting the plan and revising it. It's like school improvement. You don't just say, okay, here's the plan. Okay, we're all going to stay on the plan, and then we're going to drive into an iceberg. We see it there, but we're just going to keep it. You've got to revise your plan where it's most needed. And you do that with your leadership, your teams, your committees. You're collaborating with your team, your building administration to figure out what's the best laid opportunities for you to get better. And that's what it's all about.
Thank you.
As our leader, what will be the most important priority with the board and staff of the district?
The first thing that's the most important thing is you have to start to establish your relationships. I've already said that. You have to make yourself available. You have to go out and talk to your public. You have to talk with your board. You have to make sure that you're communicating. You have to make sure you're transparent. You have to make sure that you're making sure people are getting the information they need, so that way they can make the best laid decision that they have to at the time that's needing to be taken care of. So that's something I will always do. I collaborate. Okay, it's a messy process, but to me, that's the best way you can make the best decision as you move forward in finding out ways to help improve situations you're going through. And you're going to have situations where maybe you're not always going to get what you want. Okay, but that's a part of the process. You aren't always going to get what you always want. But you also have to include those people who are involved to help make that goal that you established come to fruition. So, but the only way that can start is by going out and building relationships, having conversations, being available, attending events, talking with the community, talking to board members to find out what your constituents that you represent, what their needs are and what they want. Being transparent with one another. Okay, letting everybody know there's no hidden agendas here. We have to let everybody know here's what's on the table. It may not look pretty for everybody, but this is what we all are finding that we have, that our groups that we are representing are saying. And how do we best meet their needs as a collective? It's not just one group.
What causes a school to become excellent?
Commitment, servant leadership, putting others first, collaborating, being transparent, getting people what they need to do their job, being responsive, not just let things sit there, getting things done, communication, celebrating small success, which will lead into bigger successes, celebrating the success of others, recognizing what you do well instead of focusing on the things that you're not doing well. Building an environment where people can speak openly, making sure people's voices are heard and not silenced, because I've worked in places like that. And if you do those things, you'll have an excellent school. You don't have to have the best test scores. See, I want to say that too. I think people look at that too much. You have to look at multiple sets of data. You don't get a picture of what a school is all about based on one test score, one metric. That's what the state does. I look at EVAS data, which is data that demonstrates student growth. And my students' growth is off the charts. You look at your progress monitoring data. I know you have iReady. You look at how students have started the year and where they're at mid-year and where they end. Are you meeting their needs? Are your special ed students meeting their goals? That's how you have an excellent school. I would also go to say that, it's how you have an excellent district.
With the addition of the middle college at Jefferson High School next year, what plan would you bring to build our CTE courses like construction trades, culinary arts to compete with our neighboring schools?
It's when you say that, I have a CTE teacher in my building right now who is, works at our high school, who's starting to develop a construction trade program and also welding program. But it costs a lot of money. You have to put the money in to invest in that program. Have you put the money in to do that effectively? I've also helped improve the environment where this teacher works in by bringing in new equipment. We have just helped purchase a laser for our school. A CNC machine, 3D printers. So, and then providing that person with the support to make sure that program is a success. Do you have the facility that can compete with your neighboring districts or your CTE programs in other neighboring communities? So if you're going to put the money into it and you want to have a quality program, you've got to make sure you have the equipment and supplies and also the resources available to make sure it is a success. And then you can compete. I think it's outstanding. That's a great idea. That'll bring people to your district. You have a strong construction trades. I mean, I've also seen programs where you have electrical and also plumbing trades that are also taught. Programming, work-based learning. Kids going into health centers and hospitals, working in those areas and environments to help them build programming that maybe they're not career and college ready. They're going to be working towards a certificate or a certification. I see 20% of your students are career and college ready when they finish high school. Why is that? I'm just looking at the data that you have. 89% of your students graduate high school. You have 8% that drop out. Okay. Maybe they drop out, they don't have the program they want. Or maybe they're not interested in the programs that they're being provided. I know you have outstanding AP coursework here. I think 2 or 4 out of every 10 students go have AP coursework. That's outstanding. That's unheard of. That's something to be proud of here.
That wraps up our questions for you. We thank you for the conversation this evening. We've gotten to know you a lot better. Now, we'll give you the opportunity to ask some questions of us if you have it.
So, you know, we've talked a lot about your district. I've done a lot of research on your school system, which is why I'm here. I wanted to find out from your perspective what you're most proud of Jefferson schools. There is one stipulation though. You cannot piggyback off of the previous person's answer. That is the only stipulation. It's always harder for the last person to speak. So who would like to volunteer? Okay.
There. I'm a Jefferson graduate, as my parents are Jefferson graduates. My kids all graduated from Jefferson. I still have one here. My wife works for the district, so I'm proud of the family atmosphere, the small community knit. Everyone knows everybody. It's a blessing and a curse sometimes.
Yes.
I was just thinking that.
But I wouldn't trade for anything. We have a lot to be proud of, but that's probably what I'm most proud of is the bigger community that surrounds the school.
My turn, I'll go. I think what I'm most proud of, I have 2 littles. I have one in each elementary building. And as an educator myself, I am most proud of the teachers that my children have had and the ones that I've met and worked with in the school. They're just phenomenal. They really are. It's a hard job, and it just seems to be getting more difficult. And I've never been around people who go so far above and beyond.
It's up for grabs, guys, it's up for grabs.
The community around here really keeps track of the school. I mean, I've lived here my whole life. I don't want to piggyback too much off Dan. I went here too, and my father drove the school bus here for 25 years when it first started, and ups and downs a whole bit. And you know, this community's a great community, and we need to do better here as a school district to get that community back supporting us full speed. I mean, a lot of us who've been here, you know, we used to come to football games here that had 2,500 people at, you know, things like that. Just so much pride around it. We need to get that.
I'll jump on something. The family's huge. I mean, we're all gonna say family across the board. I really do believe that. It's just the culture that we have here. But I think one thing that I've noticed right off the bat is this community is ready for change. They are ready for change, and trust me, we've gone through some changes. Difficult to say the least, but we're resilient. we're gonna get back up every time we get knocked back down. So that's what I love about this community is we understand that change is there, and they're willing to grasp it. Don't get me wrong, there's people that are question why, but like you said, get the narrative out.
Well, unlike the rest of them, I didn't get here till '94. So, but my 2 youngest daughters graduated here, and I've got 3 grandkids that have gone through here. In looking at this, putting aside, I'm proud of the rec center, but I think one of the things, the glue that has helped us throughout everything is our central staff. They have helped us, they've been persistent, they're very loyal, and I'm very proud of them. I think that the office over there is great. They've been very helpful and pulled us out of some real jams sometimes and gave us some good advice when we needed
That leaves me.
No.
What you
I'll
got?
go
He's last.
Oh, sure, okay. I would say, I mean, everything that everybody said, but one that's really been hard to me is CTE, construction trades, welding, getting those and growing those. We've always had them, but, and I went through those and entire through high school and everything, and that's my background today. Having that, giving that opportunity and continuing that opportunity and growing it for students, is huge. But, I mean, everything that everybody said here, I could repeat over and over and over again. So staff is huge, the family, the small town atmosphere, all those are there.
2 words, bear pride. We all say it. The people who went here, 3/4 of our educators graduated from here. They came back. They came back home. They're the things that you should be the most proud of. It's called bear pride. Everything in this community, we don't say it enough. The family atmosphere part, everybody said it. Myself and my wife both graduated from here, both my daughters. Bear pride. It starts and finishes right there. It's a tradition. It's what you feel in your heart. If you say it, you feel it, make it true.
Any other questions for us?
That was the only question I came with tonight.
No, that was a great question.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you would like to share with us as a closing statement?
I do. So, I already communicated to you that my wife and I are selective with where we want to spend our rest of our time in education. I mean, we're very secure, we're doing fine, but again, we're looking to work our way back over to this side of the state. I have a mother who's 84, a father who just recently passed away. My wife's mother and father are over here as well. Our daughters, the older daughters, are starting their careers over here. So we want to work our way back over. That's just one additional reason I want you to know that I decided that this would be a good fit. But also, all the things that you just shared, these are things that you all value. Family atmosphere, making sure that we are proud of our small community, proud of our teachers, the community supports at schools as demonstrated through your bonds and also your sinking fund that has been passed. Also, making sure that you are prepared for change and being ready for that change. The community is ready for moving in the right direction that they would like to move in. Also, making sure that you recognize the people who help make decisions that have helped you along this path to where you're at and where you're here today. The CTE program, having the bear pride. The one word that you said was resilient. That's nothing but my career. Being resilient, being turned down, getting opportunities and then getting back up and having other opportunities. But I feel like I got to find the right place. It's got to be a good fit. I feel like this is a good place that does have a lot of the same things that I value as an educator. The things that you have in your posting. We're looking for someone who demonstrates the highest standards of integrity. I've done that in my entire career. You're looking for someone who is a proven, experienced leader. I have that. You're also looking at someone who's knowledgeable about school finance. That's my background. That's my expertise. You're looking for somebody who's approachable and also is present. It's not someone who's going to hide in their office. That's not me. The last thing I want to let you know too is that I'm transparent. What you see is what you get. I'm an effective communicator. I'm responsive. I'm not going to just let things sit. So I wanted you to know those things. But the other thing I want you to know too, and I have this little plaque in my office. Okay, it's an African proverb, and I've already alluded to this. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And everything I have done as an educator, everything I've done as not just an educator, but also as a teacher leader and also a community leader, is I've moved my students and my staff by going together and collaborating on making decisions. And that's how I've always done it. Again, it's not easy, it's messy. This is the best process I know. Also, It's the process that Bo Schembeckler used with his coaching staffs. You get in there after you play Saturday, and Sunday is when they build their next game plan. And I'm looking forward to hopefully having an opportunity to talk to you more in detail about my game plan that I have written a draft of. I have a 90-day plan. Again, it's a draft of how I would go about communicating and working with you. But I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and visit with you today. It's very pleasant, and also I really appreciate your time. So thank you.
Thank you again for joining us. We expect to discuss our first round interviews as soon as the last one's completed tomorrow evening. We hope we can identify one or more finalists and then schedule remaining interview dates. So we'll be in touch soon. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Safe travels. And again, I'll remind the audience, we would appreciate any suggested follow-up questions you might recommend for this candidate. Please fill out the forms and hand them in to Mr. Haynes at this time.
Our next candidate is here, but we need to let her get your bearings.
We need a few minutes, yes.
Wow. Stand up.
This is a pretty tough one.
I know.
Just trying to write. What is that, nerd?
Oh, you're fine. I know.
Hey, Dave.
Like I could look up. So I had to be Right, yeah.
So tell me that, let's break down these community Catholic Protestant.
It's not gonna mix.
Yeah,
I would say there's a lot more.
This is more of a Catholic.
I would say, yes, because of St. Charles.
Yep.
Church in this area. There's a lot of things.
Yep.
Good things. But I feel like
There's a lot of
Okay.
non-denominationals.
I'm from Ottawa County. Y'all can't talk.
Have you seen that rap thing that's like, what you're in known for? When you're in Rapids, it's Bible.
Yeah.
And there's a crack.
Yeah,
Yes, it's a combination. Yeah. We'll catch your breath for ahead of schedule, but she's here. I don't want to rush her. Bearings and
I want to make sure Ron's up with these 10 years.
I was up at 12 o'clock last night, at 2:05, at 4:05, and then, no, it's been like, no, actually, we got the grandkids quit crying about 11 o'clock.
Ron's right there.
What? Oh. The guy didn't tell the wife it was on YouTube.
What's up, Rafi?
How are you?
I'm like, that is. That was kind of the inspirational thing. True.
Yeah.
How about you?
Hey, the camera adds 10 pounds, dude. 10, holy cow, maybe 15, bro. Damn, dude. Hey. Absolutely.
I did.
Four more, don't mess it up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Pretty nuts.
I don't even know.
This is
Oh, thank you.
It's 90 days.
I have my blood pressure.
Public knowledge. Where would they go?
Yes. That's draft.
Never mind.
I don't know. It's around.
I don't think it just produces it though.
These are the
Don't you live in all?
Hello, Board of Education. I'd like to introduce Dr. Christy Taylor, our next person to interview.
All right.
Hello.
How are you?
It's so weird.
Not like a long day, huh?
Long day.
Yeah, very long.
All right, we're gonna go through this script again. I know the audience is probably tired of hearing that. Good evening. On behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to welcome Dr. Christy Taylor to our district. I would also like to thank stakeholders who have joined us for this important work. And I'll take just a moment to describe our format. Typically, we would introduce the board members, but I think you know us all. Okay. The initial interview should take about an hour. We have 15 questions we will ask each candidate. Board members may ask follow-up questions if they need clarification. After we finish with our questions, we will give you an opportunity to ask questions of the board if you have any. And we will welcome any closing statements that you'd like to offer at that time. Peter Haynes from the Michigan Leadership Institute will help keep me on schedule here. Audience members may be most helpful by submitting questions on forms located near the doorway entrance. The board will consider these suggestions specific to each candidate. If the form is signed, the questions are not duplicates or illegal, and as time permits during a second round interview. The task of choosing our next superintendent is the responsibility of the Board of Education as representatives of the community. We appreciate the perspectives of our staff and community in this process. While we are not seeking recommendations as to which individual should be hired, we are seeking your input in terms of identifying and verifying evidence of skills and attributes about each of the candidates. Please keep in mind the factors we may not legally use as a basis for our hiring decisions. They are printed on the bottom of the form. Mr. Haynes will collect these forms at the end of the interview. And we'll get started. Everybody ready? All right. As an opener, while the board has had the opportunity to review your resume, our audience has not. Would you please briefly review your professional background and experience in public education and in other relevant work?
Okay, so I will tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised 18 miles from here in Ida, Michigan. My mom still lives on Dunbar Road. And I grew up in a single family home. My dad died when I was 12. He died from leukemia, which was really hard as a 12-year-old little girl holding her dad's hand. But it has made me who I am. It has allowed me to be where I'm at in my career. And so push myself to do 4 college degrees and 10 years of education. So I believe in education. I value it. And so on my educational path, I went to the west side of the state to get my undergrad at Grand Valley State University. And then I got my master's on the west side as well. And then we moved back. My husband and I have been married for 24 fantastic years. He's watching online, so I had to say that. And then we started having a family. And when we started having a family, we wanted to move closer to family. So we moved back to Ida, where I taught at the high school there, and I taught at the University of Toledo. And then I did my PhD simultaneously while I was teaching at the University of Toledo. I also taught at Monroe Community College. I don't even know if I put that in there, but I do value all of the different aspects of educational things. So then my husband was called for his work to move back to the west side of the state. We packed up all of our things and moved to the west side, where I worked as a middle school principal at a school very similar to the middle school I'm in right now, same size, about 420 students. And then they asked me to be the high school principal. That high school was double the size of Jefferson. It had about 840 students. And then I moved to a neighboring district where I was an assistant superintendent. So I've not had the quote unquote title of superintendent, but the assistant superintendent was a district double the size of Jefferson. So it was 2,400 students. And I was directly over 5 principals. So I've had that direct reports to me as 5 principals. So that is my journey for my career. I've also sat in the seats that you all have sat in, which I think is a very important part as a candidate. I don't know about you guys, but I went door to door in Ida and put out little yard signs to vote for me. And that was a very humbling experience because you have no idea what your community feels about you until you see your name written on that ballot and people vote for you. And I lost sleep that night and I was like, I have no idea what people are going to vote. And so I woke up the next morning and the newspaper said I got the most votes. And so I felt very honored that a community stood behind me and was willing to say, you know, we trust your judgment for running this. So I also have that experience in being in your shoes. And I think it creates a really unique perspective as a superintendent candidate because each one of you are so extremely important and has different values and you have different goals and you have different objectives. And I know that as one of 7 on a board. So fortunately or unfortunately, I've been part of 7 school lawsuits, some as a board member and some as an administrator. And so I have that experience that I think is very strength. It brings a lot of strength to work with lawyers and to see your name on a legal piece of paper that you're being sued. It feels great. But yeah, so that is my educational / background in a nutshell. So there you go.
How do you think various stakeholders, including parents, community staff, and even students, should be involved in setting the direction of our school?
So I think that you all own the district, and I think all the people behind me own this district. So I believe that everybody should have a stake in what's happening with the school. Again, being a school board member, I know that there are people in the community. If I'm your superintendent, I know that there are people in the community are going to come to Mr. Bedra before they come to me because Mr. Bedra has been their neighbor. He has been born and raised with them. Like people at Ida would come to me before the superintendent. Like I realize that everybody in the community holds value to what's happening. So I think that everybody should be involved. I think that the superintendent is the leader of that. And I think that the board, if they support their superintendent, should back their superintendent and be the leaders of that. But I think everybody should be included in what's happening.
Yes. Please tell us how you will establish yourself as a committed presence in our district.
So one of the things that my husband and I have already talked about is moving our family here. And I think that is a really important thing for a superintendent. I think that committing to the place that you are quote unquote selling to the community is important to have your children attend that school. And so our kids have said that they're willing to come here. They have fantastic attitudes. They moved from the west side to now Dexter and hopefully to Jefferson, but they have really great attitudes. And I think that they seamlessly will do that. They are leaders themselves, and they excel in the classroom, and they excel in sports, and they're just really great kids. So I think committing to moving here and then having your presence, I've already been to the middle school band. I made that a priority to be the band concert this year. I think it's really important to be visible at all the community events.
Mr. Pratt.
We understand other districts, including some you may have served, operate with a large team of leaders who focus on specific roles. Given our size, what roles do you expect to play in a variety of critical district functions?
Mm-hmm. So as I stated, at least one of the districts I've been part of is double the size of Jefferson. So I think that I bring value because I've seen the larger space, and then being a teacher at Ida, right, and very similar to Jefferson, I really value the small community. I think there's a lot of great attributes to that smaller space. And so relying on teachers, I think they are, first and foremost, they're the front line. And I think that that the communication needs to happen to them and to the parents. I think that Jefferson could do a little bit better with like social media, or a website was one of the things that I saw right away. I was in that middle school for a week with 0 secretaries, with no one telling me who taught what. The districts that I came from, they all had bios on every single person that said, this is so-and-so teacher, and they have their education here, and they've taught here for 28 years, or it just describes who the people are. And I don't think Jefferson does a great job at that. And so I really would love to implement those things like right away to make sure that that is visible and we're telling our story.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Corey.
What do you see the biggest challenges in serving children with special needs, and how should those challenges be addressed?
So I'm sure you guys are aware, but Jefferson has the most IEPs in the county. To me, when I heard that stat, I feel like we need to have more supports in our schools here, because I've worked in 2 other counties, one in Kent County and one in Muskegon County, and it's just ran very differently. The Monroe County ISD, and I feel like there's a lot of holes for our special education students. They're not placed where they need to be, or some of the special education need to be in gen ed, or gen ed students need to be in special education. And so the way that they're evaluated, I feel like we can improve on for sure.
How would you help us to build a more protective, trusting, effective, and communicated relationship with our ISD?
Okay, so I just mentioned the ISD. Fortunately or unfortunately, I know that you guys have kind of heard a rumor that we don't get along, myself and the ISD. When I was a board member, I had to make some really tough decisions on a superintendent when I was a board member. So that was 8 years ago, and I didn't expect coming back to this community to hear, oh, I can't believe that, that she was hired. And I'm not sure if that was from one person or a lot of people, but I really want to work with the ISD. Like, I actually really appreciate Steve McNew. I called him and said, hey, I heard this, like, what's going on? And he's like, you know what, I'm gonna take care of it. And I actually, Dan's shaking his head because I called him and I said, I don't know what to do, like, give me some advice. He's like, call Steve McNew, you know? And so I did, and I called Millie too, and we worked it out, and it was great. But I think some of that is just the open communication lines of sitting with each other and saying, you know, what's happening. And you guys all know as a board member, there are things that go on in closed sessions that you can't share. And there was things in IDA that I can't ever share, right? And so people can believe what they want to believe, but as a board member, that was my job, to protect that community or that person or whatever the case may be. So thank you.
We all understand hindsight. Hindsight's 20/20. Can you share an example when you made a leadership decision you would do differently today?
Oh, yeah, I have those daily. So I told my staff the first time we met, I said, if I have not disappointed you, I will. And I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. So I think of one that pops in my mind. I was just becoming the high school principal, right? And so it was my first really big, 840, I had 56 teachers. And so I was really nervous. And a teacher came to me and said, hey, we've been working on this Google survey of if we should have block scheduling. So I don't know if you guys know what block scheduling is, but it's actually like a longer time. So it's like an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes instead of a 50-minute or 55-minute time period. So it's really for a lot of science classes because they like to set up all the science stuff. And so they brought me this Google survey and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to like see what the results are and what you guys want to do. Well, the results were 50-50. I think it was 51 to 50%. I don't know, but it was very split, right? And I'm coming in brand new and I'm like, crap, like half of these teachers are going to hate me right from the get-go. Like, I mean, whatever I decide, that's what's happening. And so I thought about it. My secretaries, I had two secretaries that came to me, they said, Dr. Taylor's, it's not going to work because the bells aren't going to work. And it's, we have this issue and this issue and this issue and this issue. And I'm like, I gotta make a decision. I got to decide something. So I went with the block scheduling. What I wished I would have done differently is just waited. It didn't need to be made, that it didn't need to be made right then. It could have waited that semester or even the next year. And so just to that's what I've learned in leadership is to kind of take a step back, and I have something in my office that's called Listen, Learn, and Lead. And I got that from a district and they all sign the back. And I take that to every one of my offices that I've been to. And it's just really powerful too. We need to sit down and listen first and not just jump in and be like, oh, we got to do. So thank you.
Mr. Bryant.
What is your experience and what would be your approach to managing public school funds, budgets, school millage, campaigns, and other fundraising?
Okay, so I have lots of this with central office experience. I used to be in an office right next to the budget person, so we were really, really tight. And she gave me a lot of insights about budgeting, but they're the gurus, right? I'm not a budget person, but I do rely heavily on my budget person I have in the past. So I worked on the middle school that I was at, did a $9 million renovation. And so that was a capital campaign that I helped. I knew a lot of people in that area and I got to walk a lot of donors through the school and kind of do the vision casting of what was happening. And so first, getting out the plans of the architecture of what your vision is, of what myself as a superintendent and you guys as a board would want. And then doing bonds and stuff in villages are extremely important to do. And that comes from a lot of trust, and not just in the superintendent, that comes from the board, that comes from the teachers, that comes from the community, and all believing that it should happen. So I've seen them pass and I've seen them fail, and it just depends on what kind of support you have from the community.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, I just have a quick follow-up from that too, is I was in this meeting with the renovations and there was 13 men, construction men, right? And I'm the only female. And it was like that one board meeting you guys had about I think it was one of the elementaries with with the fan. See, I'm not gonna get this right, but you guys knew all the lingo. Thank you. I had no idea, right? So I'm sitting in this room with these 13 construction workers, and they're like, "Do you think we should put like these vents up here?" And I'm like, "Shouldn't there be somebody else that knows about this stuff?" Like, I'm an education person, like, and they're all looking at me, like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, I don't know. So that's my side story about the renovation, but it was really fun. I got to pick, the furniture was fun. All of the new stuff was fun. I mean, that was like so much fun for the students.
All right, please share your experience in contract negotiations, labor relations, and managing a team who might have different ideas about how to do the work.
Yes, so I think team is the key component here, right? So I, as assistant superintendent, I negotiated the teacher's contract, and that's like a 4-day process, right? It was, one day was we want this, and then we want this, and then you kind of come to the middle. I think it's really important to have a good relationship with your union president. I've always been really close with all of the union presidents I've worked with. I happen to be I respect our JEA president, union president, a ton. I think that union presidents are there for the right reasons. I think they're there for the teachers, and I think they're there to back everybody. Is it kind of hard sometimes? Yes, it is. But I think starting off with a strong relationship is very key. So 2 examples real quick that I have. I mean, that was one example with the teachers one, but and that one turned out really well. But one as a board member, when I was in IDA, that didn't go so great, that I had a hard time sleeping at night, was everybody got some sort of raise except for the bus drivers. And for whatever reason, they were cut out like $250. And I was like, dude, I will just get my checkbook out. Like, what do we need to do? Like, it just seemed so unfair to me. You know what I mean? Like, these are the only, it's such a small group, and we're like excluding them. So just the way you make people feel, right? So.
Okay. What is your vision for a comprehensive professional development plan for our educators? What should be our priorities and delivery system?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I actually love professional development. It's like one of my things that I love, and I think it's really important for everybody to be in the same room district-wide to start working on curriculum and sitting together and saying, from 1st grade to 2nd grade, what does this look like? From 3rd grade to 4th grade, what does this look like? And so to unify all of those things with curriculum, I think that's really strong for professional development. But I also think it's really important to value the people who you work with and who you work for. And one example is that, like, people work for great leaders, right? And they want to work harder for great leaders every day. And one of the examples that I had even this year in the middle school, there was just really low, like, morale. Everybody was starting to get negative, like even myself, like, we can't get through this week. It's just so hard. And I sent out a Google survey of what their favorite candy bar was and their favorite pop or drink. And that's really small, right? But I took a personal day the next day, and I went shopping with my boys. They came with me, and I got this list out. I said, we need like 5 Snickers, and we need 10 whatever. And we put them all in bags with their names on them. And that just, for me, and I got yelled at by 2 teachers because they're like, you took your personal day and you did this. But I just think that shows that you value them, and you're wanting to be just at the forefront of saying, how can I acknowledge you? How can I make you better? Like at the first PD day, this person has 28 years of experience, and you put up their first teaching year and then their last teaching year, just little things that I haven't seen yet here, just of highlighting those types of things.
For the past 20 years, our enrollment has steadily declined. What plan would you put together to build trust back from our community to choose Jefferson over our neighboring schools?
So that's a really great question. And I have asked that question to several people in the building that I'm in. Is what happened, right? And so I just think it's over time. I just think it has declined over time. And my answer to that would be excellence. Excellence in academics, excellence in athletics, like every area, buildings and grounds, technology, just excellence in every area. So that neighboring districts, people are like, oh, what are they doing over there? You know, or why are they doing that? Or why are they building that, you know, from their millage? Or why did their millage pass? Or why did their, you know, they're just all of those things I think is really important. And then, like I said earlier, just to tell the story of getting that out there. You know, we have Facebook and stuff, but there's still parents that are like, I didn't know this was happening. And I think that's really important to get that out all the time of what is taking place. So, yeah.
Where are we at? Mr. Fred? Mr. Fred?
How would you confront resistance to change and that we have always done it this way?
Well, I had lots of experience with that. And one thing I would say is, you know, my dad used to say, I was born smiling. And I just, when people are like, oh, you know, we haven't done it that way, or this really negative attitude, I just kind of smile at people. And I think it's really important, again, to listen to people at first. But there's several examples in my mind that I've tried, and even in staff meetings, teachers will look at me like, well, we don't do it that way. And so I'm like, okay, let's try it again, you know? And I think a lot of it is just presentation and how you do stuff. Like, you can't just come in and say, oh, we're having all brand new curriculum. Like, you have to invite people into the process, and you have to make sure that they are valued in that opinion, you know, and not just pretend to listen. Like, I really want people's opinion. Like, I really want people on the team to decide that, you know, because again, there's people who've been here, you know, 20, 30 years, and they know this district way better than I do. So I think it's important.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next, as our leader, what will be the most important priority with the board and staff of the district?
So, like I said, I've been a board member, so I think it's a really, really important thing for the superintendent to ask every board member individually what they see, right? So in Superintendent's Academy, I learned from Michigan Leadership Institute is, you know, that 80% of your time, I'm not sure at a school district this size, but 60 to 80% would be board relations, right? So I would ask every board member, what do you see? What do you want out of your district? What do you see from your district? You know, and that's individual. Some people don't really want to talk to me, you know, like they just want to come to the meetings and say, this is fine. But other people really want to be involved. So to gauge how that is and how those people want to be valued, I think the board and then the community, again, I can't say it enough. You have to listen to your community and what those people want. And they have been here longer than me. I mean, this is everyone's, this is your community, this is their community behind me. And that is, that's what's most important, right? So, yeah.
What causes a school to become excellent?
I used those words earlier, so I will say specifically what I think is excellence. I think everything that you do, you try to do it to the best of that district's ability. So the small details, I think, is thinking through, you know, the gift idea for my teachers was very minute, but like thinking through how do we celebrate, you know, a teacher working here 30 years, or how do we think through getting little small Jefferson Bear stuff for our brand new families, or, you know, those little details that are very important to people. I remember once when I was at a school, we had a new superintendent, and he was coming around to all of the buildings, and I had gotten on that, like a school mug or something like that. He's like, oh, I've never had anyone do this. Like, just stuff like that, you know what I mean? Of like, hey, welcome to our school. And, you know, when I came here, there was no one in the middle school. No one helped me get in the school. No one told me what the teachers taught. Like, those things we have to like make better. We have to make those things excellent. We have to ramp up the customer service, making sure that, you know, all of the secretaries have the warmest smiles on their faces, or making them feel like, you know, they're dropping their child off to a brand new place, and how can I make them feel welcome? Like, all of those things are excellent. The AP classes, here, you know, I know we only have like one AP classes. I would love to look at some more AP classes in the high school, and to bump up, you know, though, I mean, in my last high school, there was like 13 AP classes, but, you know, what can we bump up to make all of those things excellent? So I think it's, yeah, I think it's good to look at all the things.
Thank you.
Okay, you started to touch on this next question.
Okay.
With the addition of the middle college at Jefferson High School next year, what plan would you bring to build on our CTE courses like construction trades to compete with our neighboring schools?
So I greatly value CTE. I don't know if I mentioned, but my dad was an auto mechanic instructor at Monroe Community College, and he owned his own body shop in Ida. And so I value that, right? I don't think every kid should go to college. I wrote a book and spoke on a couple of radio stations, and they asked me, do you think every kid should go to college? And I said, absolutely not. I think it's really important to have CTE classes, to really have that well-rounded, to give everybody what they need. And so I think it is important to look at, again, the counties that I come from, they actually offer CTE classes at their ISDs. So it's a different model here that they don't, like, and so I would love, again, to partner with ISD just to say, how can we partner more with you? You know, because like I know the community college has some of those class offerings, and to kind of partner with them in doing that. So I think it is important to keep maintaining that, but also looking at different models on how we can expand that, right? So some examples would be, at the ISDs I come from, like they bus the kids, and they create like sheds that the schools needed, and the kids actually create those. You know what I mean? Like they build them from scratch. And so like they're constantly growing those areas. So yeah.
That's the end of our board questions.
Oh, okay.
We thank you for the conversation. We've learned a lot about you. Now we'll give you the opportunity if you have any questions of us. We'll try to answer.
Okay, all right. Well, being here for 10 months, I don't have a bunch of questions. I kind of mentioned to you guys, like the individual questions would come, you know, if you guys thought, you know, hey, she could be our superintendent, and I would ask you individual questions. I did prepare like a last statement. Is that okay to give that now? Okay.
That's the next.
Okay, great. Okay. So I just kind of wanted to wrap up by saying, you know, I have worked really hard for where I'm at in my career with my education. You know, having a PhD is like 0.001% of people in the world that have that. I'm very proud of it. I've worked really hard with a lot of tears over that. And then I have so many certifications, right? I have Michigan Leadership Institute, which I don't know if you guys know, but like you go every weekend for 6 weekends. Around the state. It's really cool. It's like to the Thumb area, and then it's to like Midland, and you go for the weekend and you learn with other superintendents around the state, and you learn so much. Like it's a really cool program. He did not ask me to say that, so I said that on my own. But then I have a state certification through Horizon, which is a superintendent's certification with a central office endorsement. And then, you know, of course, all the experience that I listed, that I've been at central office, I've been at every level, right? The superintendent, assistant superintendent in central office, and then middle school principal, high school principal. And then now I have a little fifth grader, so I kind of am elementary a little bit. I have a little bracelet that a fifth grader made me, so cute, and I wore it. She's just the sweetest little thing. And so I feel like all of my experience, all my certification, you know, CPR, CPI, AED, that's all great, right? I've worked really hard, but I think the most important thing is how I treat people. And these people behind me are amazing people. And somebody said to somebody that just came in, they're like, well, she's only been here a couple months, how do you trust her? And I'm like, because the teachers see how I treat the students every day, and they see how I treat the teachers in a staff meeting, and they see how I treat parents. Even the ones that pop up on my phone, I'm like, oh, they cannot be calling again. But I do, you know, I answer it, and you talk through, and you got to listen to these parents, because there are parents, there are people, and I hope you guys haven't heard a lot, you know, as a board, you know, from the middle school. I hope it's been quiet. That's my goal, is to keep it quiet so it stays out of the superintendent's office, and then it stays out of, you know, your guys' office. And that is something that I pride myself in, trying to work really hard for our parents, you know. And so with that being said, I feel like when I was an assistant superintendent, I was working with the elementary principal, and a first grade teacher said, it's not what you say to kids, it's how you treat, it's how they feel treated, or it's how you treat them. And I just always think that of how we treat people, and I just want that to be just the best that I can be to lead people. And so, yeah, so I would love to be here. We say every day on the announcements, after every announcement, we say Go Bears. So I love this community. I love the people. They're amazing, amazing people. So they treat me way better than I deserve. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for your interest in the position. We expect to discuss our first round interviews as soon as the last one is completed tomorrow night. We hope to identify one or more finalists and then schedule remaining interview dates. So you'll have something soon.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
And I'll be here at 7 a.m., so you'll know where I work. Thank you, Mr. Petra. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then just as a reminder for those in the audience, we would appreciate any suggested follow-up questions you might recommend for this candidate. Please fill them out and give them to Mr. Haynes at this time. Where's my agenda? Is there an open? Thank you. I thought you guys moving on to the agenda, oral communication citizens. I have none. Hearing none. And then board administration, we'll just go through the board. Anything from the board?
Thanks all for being here.
Thank you all for being out there. Appreciate it.
One day.
And then we'll move on to motion to move the special board meeting to be there. Or. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We are adjourned at 8:52.
We got.